Hi everyone. Sir, meeting is start or not?
Okay. Yeah, we will start. Yes.
Nah,
Okay.
Vinodji, please start kar.
So, good evening to all of you. Jai Bhim. As you know, this is the lecture series to celebrate the 75 year of Indian Constitution. Today's topic is Beyond Access, exploring the educational trajectories of Dalit women activists in higher education and constitutional rights. We have with us Ms. Preeti Kohli. She is a PhD scholar in the School of Educational Studies, Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Universities. Her research foregrounds the voices and narratives of Dalit women activists, voices often marginalized or absent in the mainstream academic discourse. Beyond research interests research interests also span caste, gender, intersectionality, and educational justice, with a particular focus on everyday negotiation and aspirations for Dalits in higher education. Ms. Preeti has widely published her research article in around journals like Journal of Social Inclusion Studies and also JCAST, which is published from the Brandeis. Welcome you, Preeti. Before we go ahead, we request Lakshmi sir if you want to add something in this, then we invite the speaker.
No, sir. Thank you very much. Please invite the speaker.
Okay.
After this meeting, I can share something.
Okay, Preeti, floor is yours. 35 minutes, and then we'll discuss it.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much for that introduction. Good evening, everyone, and Jai Bhim. Thank you all for joining today, even amidst the chaos that's happening around. And I would like to take a moment to mourn the loss of civilians who were attacked in Kashmir yesterday. I'm here to share insights from my work titled Beyond Access, Exploring the Educational Trajectories of Dalit Women Activists in Higher Education, and how it falls in the purview of constitutional rights. This work is a part of my ongoing PhD research. Um, and Sir, can you move to the next slide, please? Yeah, so the outline of today's presentation includes an introduction and research rationale, research questions, the theoretical frameworks that I have used, methodology that I have employed, analysis and findings, and finally the conclusion. Next slide, please. Okay, so this presentation stems from the growing need to shift our conversations from merely access to education towards more critical and nuanced understanding of what happens after that access is granted through constitutional rights, such as right to education and affirmative action policy. In this talk, I aim to trace the trajectories of Dalit women activists in higher education institutions, not just as students or beneficiaries of reservations, but as political thinkers, organizers, and agents of change. Their journeys reflect how education becomes a terrain where constitutional rights are not just claimed, but lived, interpreted, and reshaped in everyday practices. Drawing from narratives, lived experiences, and a Dalit feminist standpoint, this presentation highlights how the Constitution, especially its promises of equality, dignity, and non discrimination, act as both a framework of aspiration and a tool for resistance. Um, Education has played a major role in achieving the social mobility for individuals from marginalized groups, and progress in the social mobility of Dalits was made possible due to reservation policies, scholarships, etc., in establishing an equal position. However, empirical evidence shows that social structure is more or less the same for Dalits, where they still face discrimination and harassment in different forms. Moving beyond the accessibility debate, this study shifts the gaze to the education of young Dalit women suppressed by the Brahminical society, their patriarchal community, and the system at large in the context of higher education. By analyzing the day to day lives from the vantage point of young Dalit women activists in higher education, this study seeks to understand how they negotiate with power structures in public and private spaces to keep themselves in education. Next slide, please. The major research questions that guide my research are what are the struggles of and challenges of Dalit women activists in higher education, and how do they resist and negotiate power structures through activism. Next slide. So to understand the theoretical framework, we will have to next slide, sir. To understand the um, uh, theoretical framework, we will have to understand the graded and unequal structure of caste, which is a well-researched topic in India that has been widely discussed in academic spaces based on the constitutional principles of equality, equity, and justice. Um, um, the graded inequality as a concept has been introduced by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar and further theorized by scholars like Uma Chakravarti, who coined the term Brahminical patriarchy, um, that explains that caste is a graded and hierarchical system of inequality in which power is distributed in a graded manner as we go down the structure. It is important in this context to understand that the subjugation of Dalit women in India is not only due to patriarchal structure, but it is very much embedded in the caste system. This places Dalit women at the weakest end in Indian society as they are abstained from basic human rights, including education, health, prestige, social status, religious rights, etc. And furthermore, Dalit women have always been treated as marginalized by two major social movements in India, that is the feminist movement and the Dalit movement. Hence, the present research attempts to understand the experiences of Dalit women, particularly through Dalit feminist standpoint and intersectionality theory. Dalit feminism is a philosophy that centers its idea around the caste and explains that caste primarily inflicts patriarchy. This argument is important to understand as given the backdrop of Dalit women, it has been observed that the nature of feminism in India has largely been dominated by upper class women. Thereby, there is repeatedly sidelining and othering of Dalit women's issues. Uh, the concept of intersectionality, as given by Kimberly Crenshaw, finally that addresses the loophole in feminist movements to talk about the identity of women on the various intersections of gender, race, class, sexuality, and in Indian context, it is primarily on the basis of caste and gender. The Brahmanical patriarchal nature of Indian society remain unquestioned even today. Next slide. Okay, so I'll be glossing over the methodology part because to quickly move on to the major findings. But the methodology of this research is located in qualitative research paradigm, and I have used narrative inquiry method for the research that explores the narratives within understanding that human life is multi-storied and that narrative inquiry puts experiences at the center, and hence narratives are the best way to represent these experiences of human lives. As a qualitative researcher, I am interested in the narratives of the women's lived experiences that is located in the context of higher education, for which I have interviewed 15 Dalit women activists enrolled in various higher education institutions of Delhi, using semi-structured interviews, and I've reached out to my participants through snowball sampling method. Next slide. I have used thematic analysis approach that is developed by psychologists Brown and Clark, which is used to find and examine patterns or themes in a data set. And it is carried out in 6 stages. For ethical considerations, I have sought out the consent of my participants. I have, to maintain the confidentiality of the participants, I have used the pseudonyms for their original names and also for the universities that they were enrolled in, due to the sensitive nature of this research. Next slide. So moving on to the major themes, to contextualize this Dalit women activist identity, 3 major themes emerged while tracing their educational trajectories. that is from entry to exclusion. First theme is what does access mean to Dalit women? The next theme is caste, class, and gender, intersections of everyday oppression. And the final theme is identity assertion through reclaiming, embracing, and resisting their identities. Next slide. So the first theme is from entry to exclusion. What does access mean for Dalit women? So most of the women I interviewed for my study were first generation from their families, and being a first generation in education spaces poses various challenges for the marginalized groups to pursue and complete their education. For example, there is no guidance in the family to direct these women to the initial stage of entering higher education. Without guidance, the sources of information and the choices to study further already shrink. Due to the lack of this socio-cultural capital or a network to gather information in accessing higher education, Dalit women struggle from choosing what to study to choosing college preferences, which land them into courses which is not their first choices. Um, and there is always a pressure of representing their families or community hopes. For an instance, one of the participants narrates, and I quote from her narrative, that because I'm a first generation in my family, my background was not like that. I could have planned what to do in future. If I talk academically, I didn't even know what is PhD, what is an MPhil. I just knew one thing, that when I was in 10th standard, my father used to say to be an IS. Now, what is an IS? I didn't know that either, and neither did my father. There was no guidance to guide in the family, so I got to know through newspapers. But that was also not the whole information I got from them. I wanted to be an IS, but due to financial struggles and no proper guidance, I couldn't pursue that. So I got to know about DU admissions through newspaper, and then I enrolled myself in one of the regular courses there. Another participant shared a similar narrative, and she says that I'm a first generation from my family to reach here, and I didn't even know what is how does cutoff works, and for some reason I missed first and second cutoff of the admission. So when I went to get an admission in the third cutoff, I was denied admission because my marks were higher for the third cutoff. It was really disheartening that even after scoring good marks, I was unable to get admission to my first choice, which was political science. And in the end, there were seats vacant in Hindi, where I had to take the admission. Education has played a major role in achieving social mobility for individuals from marginalized and disadvantaged backgrounds. However, being a first generation in education poses various challenges for the marginalized groups to pursue and complete their education. Anup Kumar Singh argues that even before they arrive in college or university, the Dalit or Adivasi student has already been fighting a long and exhausting battle. He, and especially she, has to contend with poverty and lack of material resources combined with social stigmatization of hostility. So, merely studying the enrollment statistics poses a vague picture of accessibility. And while doing the literature review, I found out that to study the gap in academic journeys, the enrollment, dropout rates, or experiences have been studied enough. However, the range of social, academic, and extracurricular experiences of students at college between entry and exit remain least studied in the context of caste, privilege, and education. Another process through which um, uh, Dalit women feel excluded is or navigate academia and its elite culture is through classroom processes and language barriers. Due to which there is a cultural and emotional distance from academic spaces through language, which deters their confidence, and they feel alienated in these spaces. And after somehow securing seats in higher education, when Dalit women enter the classroom spaces, they struggle with pedagogical processes. And one of the major processes that exclude them daily is the language barrier. One of the participants shared that I did my schooling in Hindi medium, but when I came to college, it was in English. It was in English medium. I still remember how did I feel. It felt like I was transported from India to somewhere abroad. I used to cry a lot because I couldn't comprehend a single word from those difficult readings. I had always been a bright girl in academics and I used to score good marks in school. But here I was not able to understand anything. I was in a lot of pressure for 2 to 3 months. I even took English coaching to comprehend the lectures, and this is how I completed my graduation. In these narratives, as Professor Sukumar also argues, that negotiating the academic case with its specialized language and culture, mores, and manners is a tricky enterprise for the first generation Dalit students. Um, and if we also study the role of NAP, on the one hand, there is a continuous effort to push for multilingual education and promote Indian languages in NAP 2020. While on the other hand, competing on the global standards, there is a high demand to learn and speak English. Um, English being the dominant language negates the experiences of all other local or regional languages, which collapses all knowledges in one language. However, when Dalit women from non-English, lower caste, lower class, rural backgrounds who predominantly speaks local languages enter into this world of academia, their experiences are that of struggles to accommodate in the dominant English environment. Next slide, please. The second theme is how these women navigate the caste, class, and gender operation and the intersection of these in the higher education spaces, which is layered and spanned from their early experiences in schooling as well as higher education. The narratives show that teachers and peers' attitudes towards them and how they are treated on the basis of their caste identity. These are categorized into major categories where Dalit women are constantly seen as questioning caste-based discrimination and challenging dominant feminism. So when they enter, um, so their location at the margins of caste, class, and gendered power renders them highly visible and yet simultaneously invisible. For an instance, they are visible as quota students, marked by institutional gaze and peer scrutiny, yet their voices, histories, and cultural capital remain invisibilized in classroom pedagogy and institutional networks. Uh, Class shapes vulnerabilities in material and emotional terms. Gender further complicates this, and being first generation means not knowing the rules of the game. This theme, therefore, holds together these interlocking narratives and hence unpacks the specificity of the women's intersectional marginalization, but also illustrate how these women persist, navigate, and resist through knowledge-seeking friendship and emerging political consciousness. Um, while understanding these caste-based discrimination, one of the participants shared an incident from her school, and I quote from her narrative that when she says, "I used to receive both merit-based and caste-based scholarship because I was a bright student in the school. Once my mother came to school to receive the scholarship, the teacher asked her, 'Whose mother are you?' My mother replied, 'I am Nisha's mother.' I stood up and the teacher said, 'Oh, you are SC. Doesn't look like one.' It's a general stereotype that SC students are not hygienic and they are dirty, which was the case in my school also. But the reason behind is different. Every student can't afford good clothes, and moreover, their parents are working, due to which they have to dress up on their own. But my mother paid special attention to the fact that we wear clean clothes and dress up well. I was a child at that time, so I didn't react. My mother also smiled and let go of this incident. Now, when I reflect back, I understand that the teacher was ridiculing us and it was a caste based microaggression. Uh, Through this narrative, we can understand that Dalits have been at the receiving end of facing caste based discrimination in the wider society for many years. And it is important to understand this discrimination that they face in higher education spaces in the form of microaggressions ever since they start entering academia. Bharat Rathod analyzes these microaggressions in the context of caste-based discrimination as commonplace verbal or behavioral indignities, whether intentional or unintentional, which communicate hostile, derogatory, or negative caste slights and insults. But due to her inclination towards Ambedkarite ideologies, Nisha is conscious enough to identify these microaggressions. and she continues to share her reflection of this experience. The intersectionality of caste and class difference, which is often absent in dominant narratives, which only present them as deficit, is countered by Nisha in her narrative. Stereotypical images of Dalits that upper caste have are prevalent due to the dominant narrative of caste structure based on purity and pollution. And so comments like "you don't look like a Dalit" or "you are too intelligent to be a Dalit" or you are too beautiful to be a Dalit" are often said in a way that it seems that Dalits are complimented. While claims while such microaggressions invalidate the group identity or experiential reality of target persons, demean them on a personal or group level, and communicate that they are lesser human beings, which suggests that they do not belong with the majority group. Um, Similar narratives were shared by other participants um, in in this research. And the other theme that was challenging dominant feminism um, has been seen um, through the conceptions around Dalit women who challenged traditional feminist and patriarchal narratives time and again that frequently ignore the distinctive experiences of Dalit women. Sharmila Rege have argued that Dalit women talk differently as they are discriminated against on multiple layers, including caste, class, and gender. Um, and one such similar voice is echoed in one of my participants' narrative when she says that I was pursuing BA and I had upper caste female friends. We used to talk and hang out with each other. One day, a girl said that we do not allow our mate to go inside the temple of our house since she belonged to a Chamar lower caste. Now, when I reflect back, I used to think these upper caste who are not allowing us in their temples will never accept us. And upper caste women said these things, and then we are expected to maintain sisterhood with them. How can I accept them as my sister? In this narrative, the participant is sharing her disappointment when it comes to caste-based discrimination by the hands of upper caste women. On the one hand, upper caste and upper middle class groups are dependent on the labor of Dalits, while on the other hand, Dalits are also targets of caste-based discrimination that is perpetuated and practiced by upper caste on an everyday basis, which often operates in terms of accessing their private and sacred spaces. The fight for accessibility for Dalits has a long history, from accessing water to temple entry under the leadership of Dr. Ambedkar's fight against caste-based discrimination. However, the remnants of the past still follow in the postmodern urban world, and Dalits are still fighting for their basic rights. Nupur reflects this in her narrative and shares the impact of denial of entry and acceptance among the upper caste circles based on this incident. And she counters the sisterhood arguments of upper caste feminists and refuses to be the sister to someone who doesn't understand the plight of Dalit women and continue to practice the caste-based discrimination that their ancestors used to practice centuries ago. Next slide, please. Um, the uh, the final theme is identity assertion, where the women are seen reclaiming, embracing, and resisting their identities. And one of the powerful narrative that from one of my participants is when she shares that ever since I gained consciousness, I have identified myself as a Dalit woman because it's been told in my home that we belong to this community. This is our identity. Baba Sahib is my identity. My father belongs to a village in Uttar Pradesh where Dalit consciousness has existed since the time of Kanshiran Sahib, or maybe even before that. I have seen celebrating Ambedkar Jayanti since childhood in both my village and home. And here I have used Patricia Hill Collins' idea of self identification, where she articulates that self definition is a process through which Black women resist externally imposed stereotypical identities and assert their own subjectivity. This act of self definition challenges dominant power structures that seek to marginalize or misrepresent their lived realities. Similarly, Dalit women's self definition is a deeply political and emancipatory act that resists Brahminical patriarchy and caste based oppression. Their self identification Whether Dalit, Ambedkarite, feminist, or other categories function as a counter narrative to dominant caste discourses that seek to essentialize or erase their agency. Like Patricia Hill Collins' argument, Dalit women's assertion of identity subverts casteist and patriarchal knowledge systems that have historically sought to define them from an upper caste lens. Next, yeah. So to conclude, I would pose an argument where it is believed that non-dominant groups are not merely passive recipients of the culture produced, reproduced, and thereby excluding them in the higher education spaces. Education is an important tool of resistance for Dalits and especially for Dalit women, which act as a transformative potential to counter the political passivity of Dalits into making a Dalit political subject, to understand their rights, history, and the mechanisms of societal structures that perpetuate discrimination towards them. It is through resistance, resilience, and negotiations that they navigate the higher education spaces, which were also countered in the narratives of the Lithuanian activists. The resistance and survival, the contestations, the processes, and trajectories that are involved in the academic journeys of the marginalized, despite numerous challenges, also reflect the importance of education for achieving socioeconomic mobility. These issues are critical to understand and must be resolved if higher education is to be enabling and not just accessible for the marginalized students who fight to enter higher education spaces. So yeah, I thank you all for listening to me, and I also thank the organizers for inviting me and providing me with this opportunity. And if you have any questions, comments, and feedback, you're most welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Preeti. So we invite the questions now from the audience. ये इंजीनियर साहब पूछिए.
Yes, sir. Namaskar, Jai Bhim to everybody. I am M.R. Daroj from Himachal Pradesh. As Madam said that Brahmanical patriarchy, she explained about it, but in my perception, the positive mind power towards the higher education, especially for the capable women of Dalit or the marginalized communities, has the major role. Subsequently, the adequate financial power should be there, and zeal to get the higher education. Despite of many caste-based remarks, etc. Although you said it beyond excess, so beyond excess, in this respect, as far as poverty is concerned, there are so many schemes of the government to impart higher education to the women of not only Dalit women, but to widows, Ekal Nari, unmarried, or the having only daughter of the other non-Dalit communities also. And in addition to this, there is educational loan facilities at lower rates of interest. Even then, the poor perception of the guardians, parents, and you see, of course, social net sound them regarding any kind of education is still prevailing in the minds of the deprived communities. Believe in fanaticism, bigotry, rudibata, and quoting shameful words, that is, daughters are property of others. So there are some of the reasons and anti-forces, blind curves, hindrances in the path of projection of the Dalit women activists in higher education. So, madam, my question is that it is vivid that that how the said hindrances would be curved so that a forceful path with proper guidance can be explored, prepared, assured to impart higher education to the Dalit women under the shadow of Constitution. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir, for your question, and you have rightly pointed out all the reasons for Dalit women not able to fully use the potential and to reach the higher education spaces due to various reasons. And through my research also, I have the main reason to interview Dalit women activists is to understand that Dalit women activists are bridging the gap between academia and activism. Uh, in that they are engaged in grassroots activism where they know the realities of Dalit women and how they are affected due to the larger structure of caste, gender, and other power structures. But their academia, their entry into academic world is a bridging factor that enables the education of Dalits. For example, I through my study I have found out that there is a lack of guidance for these women. There is a lack of guidance due to which they when they enter education spaces there is a lot of pressure on them to perform better and to prove their parents and etc. But um, due to lack of proper guidance, English not their first language, because they speak their mother tongue language, they struggle a lot in higher education spaces. So the main reason and the main factor by which this gap can be um, bridged is through a proper guidance, and there are now a lot of initiatives that are there in place for providing guidance to Dalits, specifically meant for marginalized groups. There are a lot of initiatives that are meant for disadvantaged group. For example, Eklavya is a renowned program that is run for students from disadvantaged background, and they provide them guidance to pursue higher education or to pursue education in abroad. So yeah, I think guidance and mentorship programs should be there.
Right, madam.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I hope I have answered your question. Thank you.
अरुण जी अनम्यूट करिए। अरुण, अच्छा आप बोल रहे हैं कुछ क्वेश्चन?
हेलो
सुनाई नहीं। हाँ, कौन?
सर नमस्कार, मैं बोल सकती हूँ क्या?
हाँ हाँ, आप ही बोलिए। ठीक।
नमस्कार आपको, सबसे पहले ऑर्गेनाइजर्स को सर, एंड आई एम वेरी थैंकफुल टू प्रीति जी. The basic things you have brought, the first thing, language barrier, which is the biggest barrier in India. And you see, you talked about the village to the city and mother tongue to English. And but about those people who go abroad, but they have to take elite classes and other also, so that to be there. And English being the multilingual language, we have to insist. And in NEP also, there are the provisions, and for that coaching has to be taken. And on the government side, I think they should also endeavor so that every child should be alike and every child should not fear the English. And very rightly you have said, with the example, in the quotas, for the quota students, you do not look like SC. What does it mean? Do they want we should look like SCs? What does it mean? One should be a black, or one should could not talk, or one should walk. Nothing proper one should have. And I congratulate you also. You also belong to a very good family, so that your mother took those words. Otherwise, in nowadays, there could have been any fight. And identity told to my home ki Dalit consciousness from the beginning and from the birth, Dalit consciousness is the worst thing. And I am very hopeful, and I am with you. I am for you. Education is the only tool and weapon. And there can be so many programs for the government. But you are a research scholar, and may I ask you, after all, who are the teachers? Eklavya himself was the sufferer from the history because of his caste. The true thing is, if to give my views, teachers only, they have to be very, very fair, very, very intelligent, and very, very nationalist, so that they should produce the nationality in the students, so that they should not see whether I belong to SC, I belong to general caste. I'm a good citizen of India, and I have to be very good citizen of India. So I'm very, very thankful to you, sir, and thankful to the organizers also. I couldn't give my introduction. I am Induwala from Himachal Pradesh. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment and feedback.
Sir, if there is no questions, we can wind up. Vinodji. Vinodji. Okay. Thank you, Preeti Garu. It's a very, I think, wonderful presentation. Your your experience is most valuable to understand the situation. But what we have to be tell the people what are the provisions in the constitution, what we are accessing, then what are the challenges we are facing to access the constitution. That is, I think you presented challenges of the problems, challenges of the issues accessing the constitution and exercise the rights of constitution. But same time, what are the articles, what are the provisions are included, incorporated in the constitution? That is also you have to put in your written lecture. I think it could be easily understand this purpose of the series of lectures also should know about constitution. Then before the constitution, we don't have this type of access also. We don't have any rights and we don't have any provisions. We don't have a protection as a legal thing. That's why that hope should given to the people. Same time, what are the benefits we got from the constitution provisions? Then what are the challenges of the uh, issues we are facing this thing? I think
Anna, is that my voice audible?
Now audible, yes.
Now
sir,
audible now?
Yes.
audible, sir.
Will it possible to allow me for 1 or 2 minutes?
Yeah, sure.
No problem, sir. I'm concluding the you should conclude the thing. I am
No,
telling something.
you conclude.
Then
What my
no.
point in term of hello, in term
Nah,
of language, as well the class, caste, all these are in a way for the women and men's. It's very much common. The possible solution we need to find out. Like and there is a two category of women's. One, the a women who herself is an activist and gone for the higher education. That is one category. Yes, I'm correct. And there is another category who is who has gone for the higher studies and during her studies become a activist. These are two categories. I think so. The women who herself is a activist and join a higher education, she could be more capable to deal with the situation. But the student the women who has gone for the higher education, once she enter into the higher education, she is facing lot of challenges and she have to deal with that. What my point? Do you consider that when a Dalit woman or the transgender or intersexual women gone for a higher education, they need a certain level of orientation, personality development, because all these are ultimately coming under the slavery. They are entering into the higher education with a slave mindset, and in the same time, once they enter there, they are facing a lot of challenges. So, what could be the possible solutions that needed to be addressed? And it is very much applicable to the transgenders. I could give you example of even my own daughter. I'm living in Lucknow, and it will take 1 minute or 1.5. Because being a dark skin, so that my daughter is a dark skin, and she was studying in a topmost school in Lucknow. When she entered there, she has faced the issue of race, and and altogether she's a privileged. It is true because my personality, my identity is a very different. So she have a lot of privileges altogether. But she has taken it as a challenge, though she resolved it in a different way. She all the time challenges school authorities and everyone, and even she has taken a different step and she has become a model. And after becoming model, she has become a very much known, and the color issue has been over. So this may not be an example. This is not because it is a very exceptional case. But we do need to at certain level to suggest the women, Dalit women, particular transgender women or males who are going for the higher education, how to resolve the issue of their slavery, so that they have entered into the education with full of confidence. This is what I need your just inputs on it. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, sir. I don't think, first of all, like you have said that they enter in with the slave mindset. I don't think there should be a problem. We should not put the problem on people from our community. Instead, we should be able to resolve it when they enter higher education spaces. Uh, um, for example, there are SC/ST cell or grievances cells in higher education spaces which should be functional, that provide safeguards to our community people. Um, so when they are discriminated on the lines of caste or gender or class or race, these SCST cells should be very functional to be able to understand these issues and be able to fight for these issues, so that our students are because the problem is these SCST cells are also not very functional in higher education spaces. So the problem is not that it is the problem is not that we are entering with the slave mindset, but the whole structure is designed like that. So higher education spaces are meant to be democratic and where we go to study and we have aspirations, we want to achieve social mobility, etc. We have policies like reservation policy, and um, there are a lot of scholarships as well. So we have mechanisms in place, but the issue is how to first orient our people and mentor or guide them, and then maybe we can apply them. Yeah, I don't know if I have answered your question, but yeah, this is the general
You
conclusion.
answered it very well. Only by thing you already clarified that. Though there is a mechanism available, that mechanism have to take that responsibility to how to protect the student from the SC, ST community or even the transgender. And on that level, one challenge is that to make them capable to face the challenges. In the other way, they have to make the situation where the rest of the people should not discriminate or make them slave. That is what my simple point. Thank you.
Thank you, Arun. Thank you very much. I think
Thank you, Anna, for giving me an opportunity to share.
you are taking where I am giving. You are grabbing. Okay, anyway,
We have to grab only. That is what the challenge we have.
Oh,
I am always grabbing.
that's why I allowed. That's why I allowed. The grabbing also should a skill. Okay, anyway, Preeti garu,
I'm
thank you
full
very
of
much.
this still.
Thank you very much. I think thank you to all. The next lecture will be on Saturday. I think it will be the federal economy and constitution, federal financial this thing. I think we will meet on Saturday evening, 7 o'clock. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Preeti. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Namaskar.
sir. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, I will call you.
Thank you, Preeti garu. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank
Preeti.
you,
Thank you.
namaskar.
And
Bye.
Preeti,
Yes.
one
Yes, sir.
line, one line for
Yes, sir.
you. If
Yes.
for the transgender issue, you have to visit Justice News portal. You will get lot of information about transgenders particular. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Namaskar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Good evening.